It's a small flame in your heart. Every one of you has it. It burns steadily. Nothing can put it out. It's the voice within, your intuition. If you listen closely, it knows everything you need to know. When you add in your intuition, the flame grows. Your life becomes magical. Let's turn it on now. Intuition Ignition with your host, Kristen-White.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen-White here today on Intuition Ignition. And, we all have this sense, or maybe at least some of us do, that there is the other side, that there is more to this world that we live in that we can't see with our own eye. And this can include help from guardian angels, messages from our guides, or even departed loved ones who've passed on. We wonder, are they watching over us? Did they suffer? Are they really okay? Well, my guest today is an intuitive medium. Her name is Davora, and she is also an expert in many things metaphysical. And she came upon this gift after the tragic loss of her own son. Davora, thanks for being here today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
So probably the first question that most people ask when someone has passed away is, are they okay?
Exactly. And a lot of people will call and want a reading immediately after they die. And I always say to wait at least 3 months to give them time to get settled into where they are. And then I ask them a series of questions to make sure they haven't already contacted them, because a lot of our loved ones will contact us in dreams, and people don't take that as a real contact, from their loved ones that have passed on.
And what are some of those ways that we can know if we have already been contacted by that dear one that we miss so terribly?
Dreams are the biggest thing that people just pass off as just an accident or not meaning anything. But when your loved one comes into a dream, whether you have a conversation about the questions that you have, or you just have a normal conversation, or you're just doing a normal activity with them, that's a real contact. And a lot of people don't, think of that as one. They just think, well, I dreamed about them, but, that wasn't a real contact.
What else other than dreams?
A lot of times, spirits that haven't gone to the light may contact you physically. They may try to wake you up in the middle of the night. They may appear full figure to you. But if they haven't gone to the light, a lot of times they'll appear as they did when they passed on, maybe having some of the injuries that they've had. And a lot of times they're contacting their family members to help them get to the other side, or they're confused. They died in an accident, or they didn't realize they're dead, and they're coming that way. That doesn't happen a lot. The most way that comes is usually the loved one will come gently. You'll hear a song on the radio that'll indicate that was their favorite song, and they're letting you know, I'm okay through that. You may get a sign of if their favorite flower was a rose, you may see roses all over the place. Now, at my son's funeral, there was this big sunflower in the middle of this arrangement that my mother ordered, and she was upset because it was in a bunch of roses, and then there was this big sunflower. Well, later we found out that the sunflower is a spiritualist sign of life goes on after death. So right there at the funeral was a sign that we didn't even figure out until later on. It was very interesting. But the sunflower definitely means life after death, life goes on.
So everything that you're talking about requires us to pay attention and ask more questions about a lot of the details. I think that we rush through everything and we never really notice, and then follow up with a little bit of investigation, either through reading up on it like you did with the sunflower, or just checking in with our intuition. We miss the messages.
Exactly. And they can come in the form of other ways in your dreams, too. Like I kept dreaming of a black panther with green eyes, and it over and over. And I knew it was a message from someone, but I didn't know. Well, finally, even me as a medium, I don't pick up on these clues sometimes right away. I realized my son had a panther tattoo crawling up his arm. It looked exactly as the panthers I was seeing in my dream. So that was another way of him saying, I'm okay, and identifying himself to me.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Davora, Psychic Medium, just talking to us about messages from the other side. We'll be right back in just a moment.
You are listening to Intuition Ignition with Kristen White. To learn more about Kristen White, you can visit her website at kristen-white.net. Who is driving your life? Kids,
husband, career. Maybe it's time to hand over the keys to your higher self. This is the best place to start a conversation with your intuition. Grab a copy of Kristen White's #1 international best-selling book, Mystic in a Minivan, at intuitionpodcast.com. While you're there, get your free copy of 10 tips to ignite your intuition immediately. Again, that's intuitionpodcast.com. Thank you for listening to Intuition Ignition. Your intuition is just waiting to ignite. The first easy step is to subscribe to this podcast to receive new inspiration from our thought-provoking guests every couple of days. Visit intuitionpodcast.com to subscribe now. Again, that's intuitionpodcast.com.
And we're back. And Davora, before the break, you talked a little bit about loved ones who have been through, a traumatic injury or an accident, and they haven't gone to the light. I think that is a huge fear for a lot of people, and I don't want to glaze over it. I mean, what can you do? Is there a ritual? Is there some kind of message you can put out there just to make sure that your loved one has gone to heaven or the other side?
Okay. Well, first of all, everyone has free will, even a spirit that has passed on or a human that has passed on. So you can't make them go to the light, but a lot of times they're coming to you for help, and you actually can help them go to the light if they're agreeable to that. A lot of Catholics, I have a problem with a lot of people that are Catholic. They're afraid to go to the light because they're afraid they will get judged. So what I do, and what anybody can do, is if they notice, the spirit will be a little more panicky. Lights will be flashing, things will be moving or thrown around. They're really trying to get your attention, and they come a little more haphazard or a little more desperate to you. And instead of reacting and screaming and being afraid, just say, what do you want? Who are you? And a lot of times the answer will either appear in your ear or in your head. And when you find out it's probably your family member or friend, you can say, well, can I help you? Can I help you walk to the light? And I do teach people to do this. It's a very easy thing. A lot of times the spirit will say, I can't see the light. I don't know what you're talking about. And the reason they come to a medium is because the medium has a bright light around her. And so they're attracted to that light because they've always been, told to go to the light. So what I say is, let's just calm down. I'm here with you. You're not alone anymore. Let's just turn and look until we see a little sliver of light. And usually it takes a few minutes, or it may not, but then they say, well, I see something. And I said, okay, well, let's just kind of head toward that. I talk to them as we walk, and it's dark. Where they are, it's a dark place, so they appreciate someone being with them. As we get closer to the light, the light fills up the space, and as we get closer to the veil, we can a lot of times hear our loved ones on the other side that have passed on before us calling to us and asking us to come to the light. Now, we'll finally reach a bridge where there's a few steps up. It's kind of like a porch, I want to say. On the other side of the porch is this thin, filmy, moving, gassy-looking veil that's spinning kind of around and around. Now, they must get on the steps and go across the bridge and enter through the veil, and that is a decision they have to make on their own. Some won't do it, but with encouragement from others on the other side calling out to them and me assuring them that God, is all compassionate and they have nothing to worry about, and that they're not supposed to be in this space they're at right now. They're really supposed to be on the other side to go on with their learning and their progression. And so once they go through that veil, which is, once again, it's a decision on their part, the whole thing kind of disappears. And I guess it takes a little bit of imagination to imagine this, but it has really happened to me. I've helped several souls go this way. And I'm not real pushy. I'm just saying I'm here for you. I don't believe God will punish you, or it may be not as bad as what you think, but you're really not supposed to be in this space between here and there because it's kind of scary for them.
What a powerful visualization that you just gave us to just really understand what that might possibly look like. We're going to take another quick break, and we come back more with Davora, who is a psychic medium, talking about loved ones on the other side. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Intuition Ignition with Kristen White. To learn more about Kristen White, you can visit her website at kristen-white.net. Thank you for listening to Intuition Ignition. Your intuition is just waiting to ignite. The first easy step is to subscribe to this podcast to receive new inspiration from our thought-provoking guests every couple of days. Visit intuitionpodcast.com to subscribe now. Again, that's intuitionpodcast.com. Who is driving your life? Kids, husband, career. Maybe it's time to hand over the keys to your higher self. This is the best place to start a conversation with your intuition. Grab a copy of Kristen White's #1 international best-selling book, Mystic in a Minivan, at intuitionpodcast.com. While you're there, get your free copy of 10 tips to ignite your intuition immediately. Again, that's intuitionpodcast.com.
Davora, one of the things that I would love to ask you about is there's a lot of psychics out there that have a bad reputation. You know, it's like there's just, I even saw something recently on the Today Show where they did an expose on people that were just charging thousands of dollars to swindle people at the time of their grief. Can you speak to that?
It does take compassion and it does take honesty. And there'll be times someone will come to you and the spirit absolutely can't come for whatever reason. They're not available. We don't know what they're doing on the other side. And they could very well be busy doing something. I like to schedule my appointments at least a week out to give the spirit time to be able to be there with us when we do that. I think the psychic medium needs to be very honest. If they don't show, they don't show, and not make up a story for them just to make them feel good. It doesn't happen a lot. Let me tell you, I've done thousands of readings, and maybe that's happened 2 times. But when it happens, I respect it. You know, you don't charge them. You just say, I can't get a connection for you.
Is there a test that people, because, you know, nobody really wants to be tested as an intuitive, but is there a way that people can know that the information that they're getting is accurate?
Yes. Like, say there is a favorite hobby or something the person was interested in that the psychic would have no way of knowing. And if they bring that up and mention that, a lot of times our spirit guides that are helping us connect to this person on the other side, they're giving us visual clues. So the medium a lot of times has to guess what those clues mean. Like she may say, I see rabbits all over the place. And that makes no sense to the medium. But to the person, they may have grown up on a rabbit farm or had, worked with a vet and rabbits were their specialty. So that would be a confirmation for the sitter, the person that comes for the reading, that, yes, you're connecting with the person that I want to connect with.
And if someone is searching for answers, I mean, how many times should they get a reading?
I don't recommend a reading. I would wait 3 months after the person has passed. The sooner that you try to have a reading, the more chances of failure in my experience. So you don't want to do it a lot. And you don't want them to come in and get their fix, for you assuring them that their loved one's okay. Because they need to know their loved one needs to go on and do their learning and their experiences on the other side and figure out the next step in their plan. And really, when we call them back to us over and over again, it's really for our self-assurance. And as a psychic medium, I can tell you, I want to do that with my son, but I try not to. I would say not more than after the first reading, maybe a couple times a year. And as the years go on, it gets less and less because, once again, it's for our neediness, not for the spirit. Once we make sure the spirit's okay, that's a lot. Now my son died. He harmed himself. It was suicide. So I had a really hard problem assuring myself that he was okay because that's not my experience with my religion. So I was a little more needy, but it took a while for me to actually get in contact with him. He was contacting other people, right and left, and he wouldn't contact me. But in the end, I had to admit, if someone harms themselves, who would be the hardest person to, look in the eye and contact? That would be your mother,
Yeah, absolutely. And Davora, thank you for sharing your gifts and your insights here on Intuition Ignition. To find out more about Davora, you can on my podcast webpage. And Davora, do you also have a website?
I do. It's www.davora, Davora, Davora -medium.com.
Perfect. Davora, thank you so much for being here with me today on Intuition Ignition, and I look forward to connecting with you again.
Thank you.
And everybody else out there who's listening, you already know the answer to every question you would ever ask yourself, and that answer lies within your heart. So just listen to what your heart has to say to you. This is Intuition Ignition, and I'm the mystic in the minivan, Kristen White. I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Intuition Ignition. Your intuition is just waiting to ignite. The first easy step is to subscribe to this podcast to receive new inspiration from our thought-provoking guests every couple of days. Visit intuitionpodcast.com to subscribe now. Again, that's intuitionpodcast.com. And we love to hear from you. Don't forget to leave your feedback and your 5-star reviews on iTunes for us. We read every comment and encourage you to share this show with your friends. Intuition Ignition is another positive production of RareGem Productions. Thanks for listening.